and welcome to The Legend of Zelda: A Link's Awakening, a Let's Play with Link. My awakening as Let's Player. So, let's just demonstrate something that I think is pretty cool, that isn't really... Oh, I assume a lot of people know it. A lot of people accidentally, without knowing how the series works, call their main character Zelda, because of course the main character is going to be named after the title of the game. So, to account for that, Nintendo left in a little extra for people. That's right. It changes the music when you type in your name as Zelda, which makes it sound like you've actually done the right thing by picking Zelda and not Link, which probably only aids the confusion that the series has with people calling the main character Zelda instead of Link. Anyway, so we're in the Bottle Grotto. The Bottle Grotto is a nice, simple dungeon, which has probably one of the most annoying puzzles that I had to deal with, because it essentially requires solving a riddle of all things. So, because I want to actually show the riddle, I'm going to go get the Owl Speak, which is not something I would usually bother doing, but I think it's probably really worth seeing. Okay, progress. And let's get the stone beak. So these are basically just simple bits of advice, the kind of stuff that Navi would probably offer you in Ocarina of Time, or Tantal might offer in Majora's Mask, and so on and so forth. That door that we just walked past gets us a compass, which is not something that's terribly useful to us since we already know what's going on. And let's kill the mimes behind the wall so we can get our key. Now mimes copy everything you do in reverse, so that's why you need to face backwards to actually hurt them, because their fronts are apparently made of steel or something. So anyway, let's continue going forwards. Now it is worth noting that these blocks actually have a separate height of elevation. So let's use a spin swing here. No, can I get it to... Apparently not. Let's just go back here for a moment. As you can see, we get a slightly different elevation of height. So I can jump from one to the other, but when I fall down, I can't jump up. This is a trick that the Oracle games will play a lot with in later games, but Link's Awakening never really seems to explore it too deeply. Now, normally I fight these, but I apparently don't have to. It's important to keep an eye out for blocks that look like they should follow a pattern, but don't, because that's usually the key to solving a lot of the push single block puzzles, just finding one block that doesn't fit a pattern. Once you sort of worked out the logic of how Link's Awakening will arrange blocks, they're pretty easy puzzles. But it takes a while to figure out that that's what you should be looking for. Mini-boss throws bombs and charges. If he actually gets to you in that charge, he will throw you and deals quite a bit of damage, which I don't really want to receive. Something I'd like to talk about in the second episode was these things. When you defeat a mini-boss, you have one of these appear, and it takes you back to the start of the dungeon so that you can go outside, talk with friends, do side quests, have a coffee, do whatever you like. And it walks you back so you can get straight back into dungeoning as usual. So let's talk with Mr. Owl here. First, defeat the imprisoned Pole's voice. Last, Stalfoss. Now we're going to need that later. That was a map that we just passed by the way. It's nothing important. More magic powder. Let's get some rupees now. And time to get the item of the dungeon. Based on all the pots, you may have figured it out, but it's going to be something that will help us lift things. And I forgot to change items. Kill the ghosts. And you found the power bracelet. At last, you can lift up pots and stones. Now the power blaze that really opens up Link's Awakening. It's not very subtle that most areas that you can go to outside of the Mysterious Woods are blocked off by stones and pots inside dungeons. So it was kind of obvious that this was going to be the object we'd get. Something that would let us remove those stones. However, it doesn't feel unorganic, which is what a lot of games sometimes feel with blocking us. Now, this is the room that required that owl. And these stairs take us back inside the pot areas that owl was in, just to ensure that we can actually solve it, and it gives a direct link to the owl that has the right information. Also, piranha plants. There are a lot of little references to other games here. So, I think the biggest issue that this puzzle has is that it assumes we know what things are. In this room, what's a pole's voice? What's a Stoutfoss? So, bunny, bat, and man. So they're pretty generic Zelda terms, but unless you already know some of the lore, I can't imagine many people would figure it out easily. And that particular puzzle took me a long time. Until I had a friend who had this game, I was stuck here. And I was stuck here for probably a good year or so. Admittedly, I was only 9 at the time, and I didn't have access to the internet to check. But it was still pretty frustrating. Now, as you can see here, we actually need an extra bit of weight, so let's go and get the pot. Progress, 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 progress. Pots appear to vanish when you go upstairs, but isn't that what all pots do in our lives? And equip power bracelet for the boss battle. For a dungeon that took me so long to solve, the boss is probably one of the easiest in the game. It's not as easy as the 6th dungeon boss, but it's getting close to that. Very simple. He's invincible with the bottle, however, he will throw things at us, go into the bottle, and rather than attacking him with the sword, we will let the walls do the work. Because throwing bottles at walls is of course how you break them. Despite the fact that in Zelda bottles just break if you do anything with them pretty much. I'm trying to think, which Zelda game was the first one that you put down bottles, if any? Did Ocarina of Time that you put down bottles if you pick them up, or jars if you pick them up? I know certainly in the other 2D games you can only throw them. You can never preserve the integrity of the pot. Right. So, let us finish this boss off. I actually had to do this dungeon in extra time, because the first time I played through, I was so sure of myself that I actually died during this boss. And that gives us another heart container, and you can skip the heart containers, they're by no means necessary. And we have another item, another magical thing, the conch horn. And let's listen to the beautiful music. It is worth saying that the music is really good in this game, and I do recommend that you have a good listen to the soundtrack at some point, and there's also an OC remix album awaiting you online, and I'll put a link to that in the notes. So, next episode, the prairie. The prairie is waiting.